In a world filled with werewolves, Celeste finds herself and her sister Charlotte entangled in an ancient tradition and prophecy. Bennett, Greyson's father, reveals that in order to complete the so-called bond, Celeste must bear a child for Greyson. What secrets lie behind this tradition, and how will Celeste face the decision that will change her life? Join our pack. Subscribe to start your adventure. Chapter 21. Throughout the night, Mom kept waking up screaming. It woke almost everyone in the house, and Bennett couldn't manage having lack of sleep. Being the alpha and all, his responsibilities drain most of his energy during the day. With no sleep, he's more of a prick than he usually is. Every time Mom woke up, he would be yelling my name. It was his way of telling me to deal with it, or he will take matters into his own hands. And that wasn't going to help Mom's psychological health one bit. They say, never wake a beast when he is sleeping. I get up from bed and Greyson would follow me. He apologized on behalf of how Bennett was being rude and said it was due how their wolves act in an animalistic nature. I honestly told him that if they always blamed their behavior on the wolves, no one will buy their excuses. You can always teach an old dog new tricks. You don't have to get up, I told him. My head pounded in tiredness. When I stared at Greyson's complexion, I envied how fresh and flawless he looked despite having not gotten out of bed. His two-soled bed hair made it hard for me to look at him without flashing, especially when he grinned. Just imagining how we stand together in comparison makes me think we don't suit each other. He was genetically made to look perfect, while I'm average. He likes me only because we're so-called mates. The door to Mom's room was already opened when I entered inside. Greyson remained outside the door because he knew being inside would further agitate my mom, like the last time. Charlotte was already inside, tucking herself beside Mom in bed. Celeste is here, Mom, see. My eyes prick-led to hold back my tears, seeing my mother so disheveled. I ended up having to join them in bed because Mom didn't want me to leave. Charlotte and I sandwiched between her as she held both our hands, tucked close to her heart. Her hands shook until she fell asleep, and she didn't wake up from night terrors after that. However, because drive. Odell told us too. We shook her a couple times to make sure she was responsive due to the hairline concussion on her head. As I took a glance at the bedroom door, I would guess Greyson had returned to his room. The next day, I woke up first. Charlotte and Mom were lightly breathing and still asleep. Mom still had her hand clasped on mine, and I slowly removed it without waking her. I got up and stretched my sore back, feeling the tension there relax. Usually when I slept in Greyson's room, this would be around the time he would get up and prepare for the errands Bennett will assign him. I tiptoed to the door and pushed it gradually open. A figure was rested against the wall, sitting on the ground. I looked down and found Greyson with his eyes pressed tightly closed and yawning. He shook his head almost the same way dogs did after petting them. The mannerism was cute that I almost patted his head to see if he would nudge his face into my palm. What the hell am I thinking? He's not a pet. When he saw me, he smiled and said, "Good morning." It was too early in the morning for my face to redden the way it did. Something deep inside me itched. It was like I wanted to scratch the center of my chest, but there was no physical reason why. His bright, curious eyes watched me. "Celeste, are you all right?" I nodded and clutched my fist over my chest, demanding my stupid heart to stop pounding so fast. "Did you stay here all night?" I asked him, dumbfounded. He stretched his arms and warmed up his neck muscles before hopping to his feet. I got up one time to take a night stroll around the house. "That's not what I meant." "Did you sleep here against the wall?" was my question. A sly smirk formed on his, and before I knew it, he was leaned inches from my face. "Why? Are you worried about me?" Words couldn't come out my mouth. Luckily, Mom's cry saved me. "Celeste." Greyson smiled, rocked, and he stared at the direction on my mom. She's looking for you, I said despite how dry my mouth was. If you need me, I'll be outside all day. Dad wants me to patrol the maze because a lot of people have passed through it lately and their scents are still strong inside. It could be dangerous if a rogue picked up the right route through. But I thought you can't. I can't head outside. I can't. The maze is technically still inside, so I'm not really exposed to the outside world. Again, the way he said it made me feel like I wasn't the only one being trapped in confinement. The more I get to know Greyson, as the person, I feel a sense of sympathy for him. He lived in this prison his whole life, molded to become the beast people his pack expect him to be. Bennett is a strict father and he expects nothing but the best from his son. Despite all that, Greyson never once complained. Sure, he can be cocky sometimes, but he never neglects his duties. He was the type of person anyone could be proud of. Selfless. Celeste. Mom cries again. Mom, she's okay. Celeste is on her way. Charlotte tried to soothe her. Greyson pats my shoulder. Take care of your mom. I'll see you later. For a second it looked like he wanted to bend down and kiss me. I watch him walk down the hallway until he disappears at the corner. Once he's gone, I take a long-needed breath and press my hand over my thumping heart. Why the hell am I feeling this way? I ask myself. It's not until the afternoon that I finally get the chance to leave Mom's room. She no longer needed observation, but she stubbornly refuses to leave the bed. It was quite frustrating having to deal with Mom when she was not acting like herself. I swear, she isn't normally this maddening. I tell everyone, who seems to be avoiding the section of the house where Mom was staying. She sounds like me on my worst days. I couldn't be more proud. I think this is the first time Tracy and I have some sort of connection. Gran giggles. Nora frowns at her and restrains herself from commenting back. It's probably due to Lexi nudging her on the shoulder. So are you planning on telling your mom about werewolves, or should my dad do it? Lexi asked. Please don't tell my mom yet. Not until she feels better. I don't think she's ready to hear that type of news. I beg. Wait until she hears her precious boy is one of them. Gran mutters. I wish you didn't have to mind me. I was already stressed out enough. How's my brother doing? I ask Laura. He's doing pretty fine. I have a feeling Greyson has taken it upon himself to help your brother through getting used to his transition. Last night, while you were tending to your mother, Bennett told me he sensed him go down to the dungeon to check up on your brother. There was that itching feeling again. They both nodded their heads. Celeste, I know it's not my place to ask, but do you like my brother? It really wasn't Lexi's place to ask, and I was completely surprised that she did because her mother was in here keenly intent to hear my answer. The two will encircle me like vultures ready to peck my brains out if I answered wrong. In terms of friends, I think I like him. You think? Was Laura's etched reaction. Lexi wasn't satisfied either. She moved in closer, invading my personal bubble. Not as friends. But do you like my brother as a man? Warmth crept up my face. He's good-looking. Nora clapped her hands together. Of course my son is good-looking. But don't make the question complicated when it really isn't. Do you? Or do you not love my son? That's our question. Mom, what are you doing? Lexi sucked in her breath, hid behind her mother. Nora stiffened when Greyson stride to my side. Are they intimidating you? Nora pleaded with her eyes not to expose her to her son. Being a nice person, I said. Kind of. I also can't forget that Mom taught me to be honest. Greyson frowned at his mother and sister. What were you telling her? Nora sighed. We were just asking her if she likes you. It's not that big of a deal. Nonchalantly, she waved her wrist back and forth. I don't appreciate that you two are butting into my love life. What goes on between me and my mate is none of anyone's business. I didn't know what to say after what he just said, so I kept my mouth shut. What love life? It hasn't started yet until both of you profess your affections towards each other. It's been weeks, Greyson. Your father took only 2 weeks to charm me. Nora held up 2 fingers and waved it in front of Greyson's face. The 2 of you act as if you're dorm mates. I was just trying to see how well the 2 of you were progressing. Greyson looked like he was about to blow a gasket. M'an, leave us alone. Nora gawked and Lexi quickly left to escape her brother's wrath. Let's go out for a walk, Celeste. I think you need a little fresh air. He meant to say he needs fresh air. He held out his hand and I obliged. We headed out the house and towards a small stream that connected to the maze. I saw a few tiny fish swimming in it. The water was so clear and clean. I smiled when I picked up a pebble and dropped it into the water, scaring the fish. Celeste, I'm sorry about my mom's rash behavior. I shook my head. My mom has been a handful and my grandma, and really drive a person mad, so it's okay. We both have a strange family. We can't choose our family, but we aren't the people we are stay without them. You're really something. I still haven't completely figured you out yet. Ditto. You're a mystery to me too. He began taking off his shoes, then his socks, and when his shirt peeled off leaving him half bare, I wanted to run back to the house screaming and locking the door. What are you doing? I asked, horrified. He tossed his shirt on top of a large rock. Let's get in the water. Oh no. I'm fine. You can go in yourself. I like staying dry. Thank you. He wasn't taking no for an answer. Come on. This is the only day I have my afternoon and evening cleared. I worked my ass off the last couple of days so I could spend some time with you, and this is how you want to spend it. I stepped back when he took a step closer to me. My eyes wanted to look at his chest and dripping muscles, but morals told me to keep peripheral view of his head. I'm not wearing the proper attire for a swim. Covered in one of Lexi's baggy graphic tees and a pair of fades or shorts was all I had on. Laura gave me a box of Debbie's fashion designs, the same box that she gave me back at Gran's house. I still hadn't opened it. I wasn't either, but that didn't stop me. He gave me a wolfish grin. I'm not stripping, I said deadpan. Greyson laughed. As much as I would have loved. That's not what I meant. You can swim with your clothes on. No, I refused. Too bad because I don't like party poopers. Before I knew it, the world turned upside down and Greyson held me over his shoulder, kicking and punching. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing increased enthusiasm. I squealed when I thought he would drop me. My hands automatically grabbed onto his back, trying not to fall off and hit my head to my death. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing increased enthusiasm. You need to trim those claws. Relax. I would never drop precious cargo. If you drop me, I'm going to kill you. He hitched my waist tighter. Kill me, then you'll have to kiss me. He sang you a G. I groaned and he laughed, marching happily into the stream. The water wasn't too deep and the water was only up to his ankles. This feels great. He breathed. I love feeling nature between my toes. You should feel it too. I'm good now. Truly, I insist. Really, I'm fine. Yes, what? Yes, oh. You said yes, huh? He grabbed both sides of my waist again and lifted me up Superman style. Oh my God. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing increased enthusiasm. This isn't funny. Put me down, or I'm going to fall. I could see face past my hair cascading down around my face. The mischievousness practically seeped from his pores as he laughed. That stupid itching sensation between in my chest bubbled again. It was either a heart attack or something else was going wrong. His hands released me after tossing me like a rag doll into the water. What the hell is he thinking? The water was too shallow. I was surely going to get hurt. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My scream was the only thing I heard before submerging in the water. I expected pain, but instead, my whole body was engulfed in water. Shit. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My hands and feet started moving as I resurfaced. When I breathed in air, I accidentally gulped in water. Greyson's laughter filled the air. Are you cooled off? He asked between chuckles. It's your turn. Making it to the shallow end, I crawled on my hands and knees. Come here, Greyson. You think I'd willingly obey you? No, but I think it's in your best interest to help me. I think I got hurt. Immediately all amusement washes off and he's over me like a hen and its egg. Oh God, Celeste, I didn't mean for you to get hurt. Tell me where it hurts and... When I found my chance, I grabbed his arm and pulled him into the water. Thank God the shirt I wore was black and I had something on underneath, or everything would show. Sucker, I said before his face hit the water. Unfortunately, that part of the water wasn't that deep, so Greyson didn't completely sink in. There were droplets showered across the planes of his back and the angle of the sun shattered the curves of his defined muscles. Greyson turned around and his short hair spiked on top. He ran a palm over his face to remove water from his eyes. You tricked me. His smile radiated in measures that I couldn't help but smile as well. It was funny how he tried to get back on his feet and would slip on the rocks. Can you help me? He stretched out his hand. Are you going to pull the same trick I pulled? I wouldn't dare. He said sarcastically. I turned my head and crossed my arms. And that's going to convince me. He grumbled. Would you feel better if I pinky swear? Greyson's really enjoyable when he acts like this. I actually feel comfortable around him for once. I chuckled and his lips widened more where he saw my smile. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He clasped his hand, leaving his right pinky finger out. I pinky swear that I won't pull you in the water. Now are you satisfied? There is no denying this guy. I simply nodded and clasped his hand. His fingers were cold like mine, but as soon as our hands held tight, our skins warmed instantly. Watch where you step, I told him as he maneuvered through the slippery, unstable floor. Hey Celeste, can I ask you a question? His voice said low. It depends. What's the question? He hesitated. I looked over my shoulder and saw the faint tint of red on his face. I was suddenly afraid to hear what he was going to say. It better not be a stupid question. I muttered. Then the memory of Laura's question earlier popped in my head and suddenly I felt like it got cold. Good bumps formed on my arms and legs. With his free hand he nervously rubbed the back of his neck. I watched how his perfect body flexed with every movement. Celeste, you are a pervert. I can practically hear Grant cheering me on in the back of my head. Maybe this part of me was genes passed down from her. Just say it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Do you? I feel as though. Do you by any chance like me at all? Not to make you uncomfortable, like Mom and Lexi did, but I just want to know if you feel safe with me. That's all I want to know. Greyson took a step forward, and the rock slid beneath his feet, sending him falling backwards. Our hands were still connected, and coherently I fell the same direction. By sheer unexplainable force my face was lined up with his and I had a full view of Greyson's surprised expression. Water splashed and my body pressed and molded against his. It took only a few seconds for it to happen, but it felt like an eternity. I closed my eyes, and when gravity completed the fall, my teeth painfully scratched my lips as I hit face first pretty hard on something. My mouth didn't move on its own. As soon as I opened my eyes, I'm almost eyeball to eyeball with Greyson. One of his hands was stretched on the small of my back, keeping me firmly against him and our legs tangled. Another thing, we were submerged underwater and our lids were on each other. Chapter 20 to Greyson. Age 10 Bennett. Stop it. Mommy giggled. Lexi will wake up and you know how hard it is to get her to fall asleep. I peeked into the room and cringed because it's really gross and pink. I hate the color pink and I'm positive my new baby sister hates the color too. She cries so much. I go anywhere in the house without having to hear her. Dad and Mommy don't see me to be towing into the pink room. They are both hovering over Lexi's crib like they do almost every day. When Mommy's stomach wasn't big anymore, Lexi started living with us. I wasn't going to be their favorite anymore. I had to share Mommy with my baby sister. Dad said that I should always protect my baby sister and keep boys away from her. Theo and Vince are boys. Last I checked, so I guess they aren't allowed to play with her. I don't get why though. But if Dad says, then his orders. I have to follow. He's alpha, you know. Why can't we just give her back from where she came from? It's not like I asked for her. Their backs are to me and Dad has his arm around Mommy. I snicker to myself, thinking maybe it would be funny to come up from behind them and scare Mommy. She is really funny when she screams. Isn't she adorable? Mommy lays her head on Dad's shoulder. Dad turns his head to her and smiles. Want to make another one? Mommy playfully punches Dad in the shoulder. Don't even think about it. Dad laughs, which he rarely does except when he's with Mommy. Make another one. What does that mean? What I'm thinking inside my head, Dad lowers his face and starts sucking Mommy's face off. Mommy smiles and leans back so Dad can rule over the rest of her face. EW gross. Yuck. I didn't realize how loud I said it until both my parents looked over the shoulders stunned at my appearance. Baby, what are you doing in here? Mom whispers, because Lexi might start crying again, and no one wanted that. It's past your bedtime, young man. Dad frowns and I immediately rush over to Mommy's open arms because Dad would never yell at me when I'm with her. Daddy was eating your face again. I wrinkle my face and stare disapprovingly at my Mommy. Use your quiet voice, Greyson. Your sister is sleeping. She picks me up and lifts me in her arms, my favorite place. I could see my baby sister sleeping on her back. She looked really weird. Why doesn't she move? Wondering what was so great about her that Mommy doesn't want to play with me anymore. All she does is throw up, poop, pee and cry all day. The first time I held her, Lexi pewed all over my shirt and I almost dropped her. Dad was really mad at me that day. I wasn't eating your mom's face, pup. Dad smirked and ruffled the back of my head. I was kissing her. She is my mate after all. I'm allowed to do that. He tried kissing her again, but Mommy turned her head and Dad ended up kissing her on the cheek. Yuck. Mommy pretended to hate it, but giggled when Dad nudged closer. I didn't like that he was making it uncomfortable for me to stay in Mommy's arms, so I pushed him away by slamming my palm to his face. That got him to move away. I've seen them do this before, but I never heard of the name of the act. To my agent extraordinaire, Mylen Noben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't stop me from loving your mom, son. Do you know, your mom and I made you after a couple kisses. Mom punched him for real this time. Bennett, he's too young to know those things. Dad rolled his eyes. I copied him because I'm a big boy like him and Mommy needs to know that. Dad saw me do it and chuckled. When you kiss your mate for the first time, Greyson, you will know she's the one. Your wolf will make you go insane for her. So make sure your first kiss counts and do it when you know she returns your feelings. Present day. Damn it, this was not how I planned our first kiss to happen. Hell, I didn't even know how to make it happen, but it's too late. We were doing it, felt really good. Oh God, I didn't realize kissing my mate would feel this amazing. When we plunged into the water, both out eyes shut closed and I gripped her around her waist, hoping to somehow protect her from impact. Though nothing could prevent us from both becoming soaking wet, my first thought was her safety. She could hit her head on a rock, or something. My mouth just naturally blended in hers and moved on its own accord. She was unresponsive at first. I was shocked as well, but I felt her fingers grip at my biceps and she didn't pull away. It was most likely a visceral reaction not to drown. But I went on ahead and pressed our bodies closer, trying to savor this moment because I may never get this chance again. Don't point fingers at me. I am a man after all. My wolf instincts were practically cheering on my boldness. It was like my wolf was screaming, "Finally, you idiot." If she forced us to stop the kiss, I think I would probably go insane. I opened my eyes to observe her face. Her brows were pulled together in bewilderment and I thought she looked really adorable. My lips moved against hers and her eyes slowly opened in confusion. Her mouth tentatively moved against mine and I cautiously glided my tongue across her bottom lip. Bubbles rapidly left her mouth. Her body thrashed as she tried to detach from my strength. Mentally I groaned, knowing that delicious time was over. My feet kicked alongside hers and we resurfaced. Celeste curtly coughed, wrapping her arms around my neck to stay afloat. I waited for her to speak first. She continued to cough, until her throat was clear of water. I thought this stream was shallow. Some parts are a little deep. I gripped her firmly against me. She flashed me an uncertain look before turning her head away to avoid my gaze. My forwardness was making her uncomfortable, but right now, I didn't give a damn. "Celeste, will you let me properly court you?" I asked her. "Court me," she repeated. I nodded. Her face cringed and I thought maybe she would reject me. "What century are you from? Who says court anymore?" She removed her arms from my neck and pushed her palms against my chest. She turned around and paddled back to shore. "Celeste." I swam after her and we both stood on shore, dripping wet like a shaggy dog. When I reached her, I grabbed his shoulder and forced her to look at me. Her face was completely flustered and she looked at me like she was about to cry. What did I do? I started to panic. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" She got redder by the second and despite already being wet, her eyes swelled with unshed tears. Consulting crying females. This was totally not in my alpha job description. To my utter disbelief, she smacked me across the face. "You jerk. That was my first kiss." I'm tempted to tell her it was my first kiss too, but I was too ashamed to mention that. Dad made it his job to always keep me busy with packwork that I never considered having a relationship. As if I would even think about another girl who isn't my fated mate. It was an accident, but I don't regret what just happened, I say flatly. Speechless, Celeste innocently plays with the corner of her shirt and gasps when she realizes that her very wet shirt is clinging magnificently around her body. She looks at me and I quickly avert my eyes to avoid getting caught looking. The sky looks very interesting to me all of a sudden. She groans in frustration and I hold back my laugh. Hey. I catch her wrists before she stomps away. "Don't touch me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience and enthusiasm." That's a hard request to adhere to, because I love watching her reactions. Shoving me hard, she turns around and grumpy wrings her clothes. I see her skin from goosebumps from the cold. So what's the verdict? I joke. My question. You sound like your mother. I roll my eyes. What she did earlier was uncalled for. This is me asking to have a relationship with you. Forget the fact that I'm a werewolf, future alpha or your mate. Celeste, will you please be my girlfriend? The look on her face had me holding my breath. She had the ability to do that to me, always keeping me on edge. Placing myself in her shoes is kind of difficult considering we are both different species and grew up in different social norms. I kidnapped her from home. I'm sure that is socially unacceptable to humans like her. Now I'm asking her to date me and eventually marry me. She hasn't failed to mention how much she thinks I am. I stand taut, waiting for her to complete her sentence. All of a sudden, I sense something off instincts have me growling. Celeste is instantly shielded behind my back as I crouch in defense mode. Shit. Why do we always get interrupted? I swear if someone planned all this, I would. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. What are you doing? I shush her. Quiet. I thought I heard something. What? Silencing her again, I lift my nose to the air and sniff down the cause of my wolf's unrest. It was that smell again. It was faint, but it was there the same vile odor that lingered within the maze. A few of the men who came with me also detected it, but we assumed it was a stray mountain lion that entered the maze and left when it marked its scent on one of the rock surfaces. The scent wasn't robust enough to be considered a big threat, so we ignored it without informing Dad. Stay behind me, I told Celeste. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You're scaring me, she whispered. I didn't want her in distress. Not only was it bad during this predicament, but also my wolf was feeling guarded, and having it worry about Celeste wasn't going to make concentrating on the problem easier. I heard the rustling of leaves and growled in its direction. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It's probably just the wind, Celeste tells me, but I'm not buying it. The wind never smelt this awe. My wolf alerts me to keep my focus on our surroundings. He wants out, but I'm not giving it to him just yet. I had to be sure I knew what the danger was before being rash on my actions. For one thing, Celeste was with me. She has never really witnessed firsthand how werewolves transform. The first time watching can be frightening to some people. It's not the wind. If anything happens, Celeste, I want you to run as fast as you can and find my father. Don't even look back. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't be silly. You're acting paranoid. Nothing. It happened in just 5 seconds, but I heard the sound of a gun unearthed from its safety. Without another second to spare, I quickly transformed into my wolf and jumped when I heard the gunfire. The bullet was purposely aimed at Celeste and my wolf was seething mad. I was seething mad. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Celeste's scream echoed across the open sky. In a few minutes, the area would be surrounded by my pack, but by then the shooter would already be gone. Oh God, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You've been hit. With my wolf backing me up, I stood back on for legs and kept a steady wall between the threatened Celeste. She was human and a shot through her would easily kill her. Werewolves were built to withstand almost about anything. I need to protect her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Stop it. If you move, More blood will come out, Celeste cried. If this weren't an eye situation, I would be in amazement by the amount of concern she had on her face. She held parts of my ripped jeans and attempted to press it on my wound. It hurt like hell, but the pain wasn't my main focus goal. I nudged her with my giant head, telling her to leave like I told her, but the stubborn woman wouldn't move. I'm not leaving you, she roared, and earlier, she didn't want me touching her. Sniffing the air again, the smell disappeared. Replacing it was the smell of burning flesh. The adrenaline in my veins must have distracted me from the agony, but the bullet that pierced through my body was obviously tainted with a conatum, or what most people would call wolfsbane. What I sensed dozens nearby, I relax a little and the pain intensifies as the adrenaline disappears. My legs weaken and my weight becomes too much for me to handle. I see the world around me spinning, but before I fall, Celeste has her fingers sliding across my thick fur and she has me wrapped up against her. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You idiot. I chuckle because she is so complex. It's adorable. There are times I think she has fallen for me, but then she makes a topsy-turvy and smacks a ball of shit in my face like it's no one's business. I can see why Dad puts up with Mom all the time. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She screams again. If only she can scream like that when I'm not shot. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. A shadow is hovering over my wolf form. Dad, intruder. Find him. I mind Link. He directly gives people orders and I hear wolves shifting from different areas of the field. How could this happen? Dad thunders. We keep a strict security on all perimeters inside and outside of the maze. The enforcers were going to have a field day when Dad gets his paws on them. They would be lucky to only receive a blow to the face from the alpha when he's pissed. Get drive. Odell, here now. Greyson, you stupid dog. I know that bullet was aimed at me. Why the hell did you jump and block me? Celeste pressed her teary face into my fur and gripped her hands tightly that it hurt almost as bad as the bullet wound. Celeste, help me put him on my back. You're going to carry him as a wolf. Can't he change back? Transforming while injured could be dangerous for his human form. The bullet could move closer to something vital and he could die. We can't allow that to happen. Hurry. The more we delay, the more it risks his survival. Celeste gasped. Thanks for keeping her calm, Dad. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You better be okay, or I'm going to hunt you. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Sweetie, I think that works the other way around. She's so distraught she's making bad jokes. Another reason why I think she's adorable. I growl when she touches a spot that aches. My jaws clench tight to avoid accidentally biting her. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Dad crouches to allow me on his back. A few of the men help me on Dad's back, but Celeste makes it her duty to take my care under her responsibility. What happened? Dad links. Earlier this morning the men I detected an odd scent, but we excused it as a bypassing animal. Dad lets out a thunderous growl, making most of the men uneasy. You should have further investigated, he said out loud for even Celeste to hear. We hadn't had an intruder for almost half a century and this happens. I want every man in the pack to search every inch of this land until that intruder set outside and set 5 miles away from Paradise Valley. No one sleeps until he does. Dad carried me all the way to the front porch of the house where Mom, Lexi, Charlotte and Drive, Odell were waiting. Charlotte ran to her sister and asked her if she was okay. Greyson got shot. She whimpered, not taking an eye away from me. Drive, please see to him. Of course I will. I even fix him up so that he will heal quickly. Good. Because, once he's fit, I'm going to kick his ass for being so reckless. Mom and Dad looked at each other as if wondering what caused the change of spirits. Lexi noticed it as well and glanced between Celeste and me with great perplexity. Are you all right? Charlotte asked her sister. I'm one fine because of this fool. Celeste said angrily. We have an intruder in our midst. Laura, I want you and the children to stay inside until this threat is found. Watch the boys. They will have a fit when they find out they can't play outside for a while. Both will try to defy me. Dive. Adele asked Dad to take me inside and set me on my bed. Blood ended up staining the sheets. Adele removed the bullet from inside. Thankfully, nothing vital was hit. Thankfully, Celeste was not hit. I would not mind losing a limb for my mate. She is my future, and without her I cannot be an alpha or a true mate. As Drive. Adele worked on my wound. Celeste remained by my side, nudging her face on the top of my head and caressing my fur. For werewolves, the purpose in life is to find love and be loved by your mate. Then pass on your knowledge and abilities to the next generation. If a wolf can't do that, it's like losing the ability to live. One can only take disappointment for a given time before everything falls apart beneath their feet. What's going on here? Everyone turns to the door and sees Celeste's mother standing in shock at the door. She strides into the room without a care and hovers over my wolf. Her face was blank and emotionless, but when she bent down to stroke my face, it was weird and outrageous at the same time. Remington, you look just like him. My husband. Nicholas' dog, she smirked. That stupid mutt hated me. That's why I kept him outside. Nick and I would sometimes argue over him. She went down on her knees and leaned down to look me in the eyes. You look like Remington, but you don't have his hateful eyes. Did someone hurt you? Big guy. She turned her head. Why is this dog bleeding? She asked Drive. Odell. Shit just hit the fan. Chapter 23. Celeste Mon. I grasped her wrist and removed her hand from touching Greyson's soft black pelt, which was soiled by dried patches of blood. It looked like I was seething, the way I barked at her like a possessive brat over a stuffed toy. He's hurt. I don't think it's a good idea to touch him. Never in my life had I ever yelled at my mom that way, and she was completely taken back. I turned my attention back to Greyson, caressing his head, hoping somehow that would give him comfort. Greyson, you prick. Greyson, you fool. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Stop being so nice to me, because I think I'm falling for you. My vision blurred and my throat tight at my silent confession. Greyson deserved to hear it. I owe him that much for saving my life, but now was not the time. I wasn't going to tell him when pain was obstructing his thoughts. He was going to pull through this, and when he does, I'll tell him I like him. As he lay struggling against life and death, I held him and recalled the way he selflessly shielded me from the bullet that would have killed me instantly. For a brief moment, at the stream, our eyes connected and I saw the fear he felt. My well-being was much more important to him than his own. Only my heart could be heard pounding against my ears as the bullet went through him. His wolf was determined to protect me even though he was bleeding out. And my heart trembled for him, because I felt useless. Once again, someone was suffering to protect me. First it was my mom, and now it is Greyson. They both loved me beyond belief and would die for me. Mom is my mom, she has a reason for her actions. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. However, he cared for me with some kind of paranormal love I couldn't comprehend. Now there was no denying it or challenging his reasons. Because, my God, the man took a bullet for me. It was like a part of me was not myself after that. All I could think about was, to my agent extraordinaire, Madame Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. And all these feelings transpired after that kiss in the stream. It felt like a part of me had opened up and the bullet was the catalyst that speed up my emotional responses. Here he was bleeding and possibly dying, and no one has yet to freak out or cry over him. Not his father, not his mother, or his sister. I was increasingly going out of my mind. What was wrong with them? Didn't they care that Greyson was in pain? If anyone touched him, I was going to attack everyone like a teenage boy guarding his ex, box with his life. Mom's movements were slow, but clutched her hands against her chest. Shouldn't we take the poor thing to the hospital? Aunt Hugh Greyson whimpered. Bennett shook his head. Let's not make a spectacle over this and get him properly bandaged up. He motioned away from Greyson's bed. Celeste, you stay where you are. It helps if you are near him. My fists clenched. I wanted to yell at him, scream at him for being an uncaring father, but I bit my lips to keep my mouth shut. Why the hell are you not upset about this? He just got shot. Are you that heartless? Mom looked at me with concern. Dunny, I'm sure the poor puppy will be okay. Laura now appeared distressed over her son, but she didn't hurl herself hysterically at Greyson's condition. Lexi brushed a straight bow that fell from her cheek so that no one noticed. The twins were probably not allowed to see their brother in this situation, and someone was keeping them from knowing what was going on in this room. Bennett turned his head and gave me a stone-cold glare that sent a wave of nerves hurtling towards the center of my chest. It took all I had not to step back from the intensity of his gaze. 1 step, 2 steps, and he was hovering over me like an angry bull seeing red. His pupils dilated and almost completely covered his irises. His jaws tensed and I was in front view of his sharp jaws. Of course I care for my son, but crying over him is not going to help anything. Only his mate can give him the energy he needs to survive. Hey, what the hell do you think you are doing? Yelling at my daughter. Mom placed herself between Bennett and me and went eyes to eye with the menacing man. She looked straight into his eyes and saw his beast reflecting on his eyes. Oh my, what the hell are you? I stumbled backward when she pushed me back. Celeste, Charlotte, get away from him. He isn't normal. Her eyes flickered to everyone else in the room. What the hell are all of you? Greyson's wolf snarled when it saw me being pulled further away, and he tried to get back on its forepaws. Hold him down. Drive, Odell snapped. Mon, stop. I yelled. She was pushing me towards the door. I didn't want to leave Greyson. She raised her hand to Charlotte. Charlotte, get over here. We have to get out of here. Charlotte hesitantly moved past Lexi and Laura. Mom was once again hysteric and using herself as a shield to protect my sister and me from Greyson's family. Please, relax. We are not going to harm you, Laura muttered. Bennett, cool yourself. Go for a run or something. You are not making this situation any better. She coolly ordered her husband. Was it standard procedure for werewolves to take a walk when to blow off steam? I'm going to remove the bullet wedged inside drive. Odell pulled out a pair of plastic gloves from her bag and quickly rounded the bed. But before I proceed, we need to take him to my office for an X-ray. I want to see how far the bullet went and how severe the situation is. Laura groaned. Why couldn't we have done that earlier? Isn't moving him going to cause my son more pain? That caught Bennett's attention immediately. He lifted Greyson without effort, but as predicted the pain was unbearable. Greyson cried out and his jaws almost ran through his father's throat. With Greyson's abnormally large size, it was like Bennett was holding a gigantic bear. I pushed aside my mother to side next to Bennett as he steadily sped to drive. Odell's us drive. Odell was matching our pace. Greyson wasn't happy that his father was carrying him and growled his protest. Now's not the time to be complaining, Bennett muttered. Placing my hand on the soft coat on Greyson's back, I tried to grasp his attention. If Bennett wasn't lying and I had the ability to somehow help Greyson in this situation, it was the least I could do for saving my life. Celeste, get back here, Mom yelled. We don't know these people. I know them, Mom, I said sharply, and they won't harm me, or any of us. How would you know? She said crossly. She was having a hard time keeping pace with our footsteps. I was practically jogging to keep up with Bennett to my surprise drive. Adele wasn't even out of breath. Just trust me, okay? Greyson saved me and I want to make sure he gets through this. And I wanted to make sure I was there when he got better. Tell him I liked him. That dog has the same name as that boy, Mom said disapprovingly. No, Mom, he is Greyson. It looks like I've officially joined this insane town. My own mother is looking at me like I've got nuts too. She stopped following and stood shocked. I was lagging behind and didn't notice until Bennett said, Hurry, we need to treat him as soon as possible. He was already meters ahead of me. I couldn't lose sight of them. This house is so big. I haven't yet gotten used to its large size. Celeste. Mom yelled from where she stood. When we got to drive Odell's office, Greyson was quickly placed on an examining table. We had to leave the room so that the X-ray could be properly conducted drive. Odell looked at the prints. It's a miracle. The bullet has punctured between his ribs and was angled to hit his heart, but it barely touched it. Whoever shot him knew how to aim that gun. The risk of surgery is fatal, but at least he has a good chance of living through this. That shoot was aimed at me. Someone tried to kill me. The thought had me shivering all over. But he would want to kill me. If Greyson hadn't saved me, I would be in his place right now but dead. Bennett's eyes in relief of what drive. Odell just announced. Will you perform the surgery right now? I have no choice, sir. She immediately began prepping for surgery, covering Greyson's body with a surgical cloth. Do you need help? I had no medical knowledge, but I assist her somehow drive. Odell smiled at me kind-heartedly. I would really need it. Wash your hands in that sink over there. Put on some gloves, a mask and quickly put on a sterile surgical gown. I need you to hand me tools when I need it. I'll make sure no one enters this room drive. Odell, do what it takes to keep my son alive. Bennett was about to close the door on his way out, but someone persisted to get inside the room. What the F? The intruder saw Bennett and coughed before he could finish the curse word. Awkwardly, he welcomed himself inside and stood next to Greyson. Shit, man. What happened to you? You look like a deadbeat dog. Leo, get small ass out of the room. Now is not the time for your silly antics. At least tell me you able to catch the intruder. Bennett growled, Leo's eyes downcast in apprehension. Sorry, Alpha, but the rogue effectively used our territory to its advantage. He was able to escape. It was like it's been in our land before and has memorized the landscape for his advantage. Bennett's brows pull together and he grinds his teeth. I've never heard of a rogue being this tactful before. Did his scent come off as familiar to you? Leo shook his head. No, sir. Bennett growled. I don't care if it takes all the wolves in our pack to do it. Scan the area again and make sure that rogue scent is not on a single square inch of my land. What is going on in this place? He muttered the last part to himself. Dives. Can you please leave? I muttered between my teeth. Drive. Adele skillfully ignored the white noise and proceeded with her work. She cut the fur around the area Greyson was short so that it would be easier for her to mend. I looked away when she injected anesthesia for the pain and cut about an inch so that she could wedge her tool and grab the bullet. Bennett and Leo ended up staying in the room to help restrain Greyson, because drugs has little effect on an alpha, so general anesthesia only numbed Greyson, but didn't put him to sleep. Bennett held Greyson's muzzle down when he attempted to snap his sharp jaws. Leo held down Greyson's hind legs. As for me, I stood across drive. Odell kept my palms on the side of Greyson's belly and handed drive Odell tools when she asked. Not once did I look at Greyson's open wound, afraid of fainting. What was only 45 minutes of surgery felt like an eternity by the time drive. Odell was finished with the final stitch. Everyone sighed in relief. Greyson struggled so much he eventually tired himself out and fell asleep. He remained in his wolf form. He can't change back until that wound is fully healed drive. Odell said, wiping her clean-soaked hands on a hand towel. Make sure he doesn't get up and strain himself. I caressed Greyson's fur and covered his body with a warm blanket. Leo left again with orders from Bennett to manage the search party and not rest until that werewolf is found. I didn't notice when Bennett hovered over me. Thanks for being with him. No problem. I said awkwardly. Your mother is frantic, looking for you. She punched 2 of my men for keeping her locked in one of our rooms with your sister. I snorted. Where do you think I got my stubbornness from? Then his expression turned completely serious. I made an assumption before. That your grandparents, from your mom's side, do not carry the werewolf recessive gene. However, I'm starting to speculate that your father does. Have you ever noticed anything strange with him? It was a crazy notion, but anything was possible at this point. He never turned into a werewolf, if that's what you mean by strange. He died when I was pretty young. Are you sure he's dead? I didn't see his body because it was closed casket. Mom said he was totally messed up after the car accident, but she couldn't even recognize him. Bennett thought for a moment. Come with me. I'm not leaving Greyson, I said flatly. I understand. He nodded with a small hint of a smile on his face. I had someone escort your mother and sister here. We can talk from outside this room. You won't be far from him for long. I need to talk to your mother, but I'm sure she will be compliant. That's why I need you with me. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Before following him out the door, I quietly told Greyson that I'd be back, though I doubt he was conscious to pay notice. His heart rate did go 1 beat higher, but that was just false hope on my part. I steered her from outside the door. Charlotte was standing right next to her. Celeste. I cut through her voice and shushed her. Greyson's sleeping. Don't wake him up, I said in a whisper. Mom looked at me like I was some sort of alien. What's wrong with you? You're not acting like my smart daughter. You're acting more like your grandmother. Grant stood behind her with her arms crossed and annoyed. Yes, Mom screamed. Mom, keep your voice down. I don't give a shit about that dog. Not only did her words anger me, but Bennett didn't like it as well. You are talking about my son. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It's just a dog. You're acting like it's a human being. Her eyes looked between Bennett and me, and tears started forming over her tear ducts, just like Nike used to with his dog. Then full-out tears streamed down her face like a faucet. Oh, Mom. I came forward and wrapped my hands around her. Now I'm losing you and I can't get in contact with your brother. I haven't heard from him since the other night. I don't know where he is or if he's looking for us. He could be alone back at the house and hungry. He can't even cook for himself. Charlotte looked at me. Tell her, your son is safe. Bennett sighed. He's in this house. Mom gasped. You kidnapped my son too. No, he snuck in my territory and attacked my son. Which son are you talking about? The boy or the dog? Mom mocked to piss Bennett off. My eldest son, who is the same boy you meet earlier and the one behind this door. He pointed to Drive. Odell's office. You're out of your mind. Where is Trent? Where did you keep him? Mom grabbed my hand. Tell me where my son is and my family and I are leaving back to our home. She glanced at Gran. Not your house, but our home back in the West Coast. I snatched my hand back. I'm not leaving, Mom. I am starting to warm up to this town. Gran jumped and punched the air. Yes, I knew I liked you. By far. Greatest grandchild ever, no offense, sweetie. Charlotte shrugged. My sister is hard not to like. Until now. Mom fumed. Celeste, you are not yourself right now. They brainwashed you. I can feel it. When we get back, I know this great psychologist who can, Mom. No. I'm staying and I don't need a psychologist. I'm fine. They all say that, dear. You are extremely annoying. Bennett groaned. I brought you here because I just wanted to know if your husband had shown any abnormal behaviors when he was alive. Did he? Mom glared at him. You're just answer the damn question. No, my Nicholas never acted strange. He was a perfect gentleman like you. Did he have any family? Why are you so interested about my husband's background? Because your son is a werewolf just like me. Just like the rest of the males in this house. Bennett Hall but yelled it in her face. Chapter 24 He shits you not. Gran added with amusement on her face. Mum's face drained to white and right there, where everyone stood in a circle and fainted. Well, that I thought she would do. She swung her coiled fist at Bennett, hitting him square in the nose and sending the burly man leaning backwards. Bennett didn't expect it. His eyes widened on impact. Mom's knuckles reddened, and I could just imagine the pain she was in for punching him. It was like hitting a boulder hard as stone. Before he could fall gracelessly, Bennett expanded his stance to keep a firm balance with the ground. A growl emitted from the back of his throat and his grip tight and around Mom's small wrist, weakening her fist. Mom winced, but she didn't falter from the menacing gaze Bennett had on her. The two were on a head-on collision, heading for disaster. You don't tell me stuff like that concerning my son. Dumb jokes can get people like you killed. Bennett sneered, threatening me as if you could harm a single piece of hair on my head. That takes guts, and most people who don't have that. If you weren't Celeste's mother, you wouldn't be here right now breathing. Mom's brow arched up. Egotistical son of a, Mom. I stopped her. He's telling the truth. Trent is a werewolf. She scowled and blew out a frustrated sigh, then shook her head as if not believing it. No, you. She pointed at Bennett. You did something to my children. I'm going to find out what it is and report you to the police. You're going to face grave charges for kidnapping, assault and whatever the hell I can dig up to keep you in bars for the rest of your life. Go ahead. You can't even leave my territory. Bennett challenged. He crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes. Charlotte, tell her about Trent. Maybe she could make Mom believe. She hesitantly placed herself in front of our mother. They are telling the truth, Mum. Trent really is a werewolf. I saw him transform into a huge wolf fight in front of me. It happened last night. I don't believe this. Mum spat. Believe it. Gran wrapped her arm around Charlotte's and stood right next to her, sending Mom a stern look. I've told you beasts are real. But you never believed me, and now your children are very much a part of this world whether you like it or not. Accept this and it would be easier for you to stay being a part of their lives. I'm dreaming, aren't I? This is a nightmare, and when I wake up, everything will be back to normal. Mom closed her eyes and took steady deep breaths. There won't be you or that annoying man. Bennett flinched. Charlotte and Trent will be arguing about something ridiculous and my sweet Celeste would have dinner ready for us to eat so that I can prepare for my night shift at the hospital. What about me? Where do I fit into your dream? Gran mumbled. Mom's eyes opened abruptly and she looks at each person with shock. This isn't a dream. She points out the obvious. Bennett rolls his eyes. This is absurd. I have so much to deal with, especially with that rogue in my territory. Charlotte looks unconcerned. Mom, this is real. Pinch me. Mom grabs Charlotte's hand and nears it to her forearm. Bennett growls. For the love of come here. He grabs her arm and drags her behind him as he stalks down the hall. Mom repeatedly voices out the pain caused by his grasp, which was proof enough that she wasn't dreaming, but Bennett continued to tow her to the destination his mind is set on. I desperately didn't want to leave Greyson, but neither did I want to leave my mom alone with Bennett. Gran and Charlotte were already off right behind Bennett. Don't worry, I'll watch him. If he wakes up, I'll call you immediately. I turned around and saw Laura. I nodded without saying a word and took one last glance at the door that stood in between me and Greyson. I'll be back. Running, I caught up to Bennett and my mom. He had taken us to the basement floor, the dungeon. Where are you taking me? Mom protested. What are you doing? I speed to his side and grasped his arm. I'm reuniting her with her son. He said as if it were no big deal. I thought newly turned werewolves are not allowed to get close contact with anyone until they were completely in control of their wolves. He unlocks the door of the dungeon. If this is the only way to get her to believe, then we don't have any other choice. She could get hurt. Charlotte grasped Mom's other arm. Please don't do this. I don't want my brother to feel guilty if he accidentally hurts our mom. Bennett placed a gentle hand on Charlotte's shoulder. I would never allow anyone getting gravely hurt on my watch. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. He turned his head towards the raising stairs. Vincent, I know you are hovering over the stairs. Come over here. In a blink, Vincent was right next to us, glowering lie staring at Bennett's hand on Charlotte's shoulder. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Don't let these three interrupt what I'm about to do. What does he intend to do? Yes, sir. He headed towards one of the doors and let go of my mom's arm. Taking hold of the doorknob, he turned it and slowly pushed it open. The inside was dark, but when he switched the light and a figure was curled up on the corner of the wall. Oh my God, Trent, your mom is here to see you. Mom gasped and she made a move to approach him, but Bennett stopped her by placing his arm across her path. Get out of my way. It's a bad idea to spook an animal. That's not an animal. He's my son. Your son is a werewolf and the other night. He recently shifted, so right now he is very much more like an animal than your son. For your safety, I recommend you stand far away from him. She slapped his arm away. My son would never hurt me. Bennett didn't protest this time when Mom pushed her way into the small room. She took small cautious steps into the room and eventually I couldn't see her, because Vincent wouldn't let me get anywhere closer to Trent's confinement. I'm still mad at you, I heard Charlotte mutter at Vincent. Gran looked him up and down. Touch me and you will lose all feeling throughout your body. Vincent nodded once and looked perturbed. Inside the small room I could hear my mom making conversation. Trent, honey, are you okay? Why are you huddled like that? It scares me. Trent, watch it. Bennett screamed. Mom streaked and I lunged to get inside the room, but Vincent had both Charlotte and I off ground and dangling on his arms. He held us like sacks of rice. Vincent, do you want me to hate you more than I do? Charlotte yelled and Vincent looked internally troubled, but he didn't let us go. I can't, he said, pained. Mom screamed again, but this time, it was more like a cry. What the hell have you done to my boy? The creepiest thing at the frame started talking. Alpha, would you like backup? I got this. Just hang on. Ironically, the frame stayed hanging on. What sounded like an animal snarled viciously and a loud crash against the solid wall rocked the door. The guys behind the wall must be having a theater day watching all this. I wouldn't be surprised if the smell of popcorn scented the room. Do you believe me now? Your son is a werewolf. Oh my God. Mom screamed as if the world was ending before her eyes. Oh God. He's become disfigured. Shut up. Your screaming is only aggravating him more. He's shifting into his wolf. We have to close the door. Bennett had her by the back collar of her shirt when hastily running out of the room. He turned around and bolted the door shut and Trent slammed into the surface, shaking the iron hinges. Was that evidence enough for you? Mom was heaving hard and slumped against the wall. Her eyes were as wide as saucers and sweat dripped from the side of her forehead. I clawed my out of Vincent's grasp. Let go. She's going into shock. What else is new? Bennett muttered. Going down on my knees. I helped Mom up to a better sitting position. Mom, breathe slowly. How did this happen? She mumbled. We should get her somewhere comfortable. Charlotte kneeled on the opposite side, also hovering over our mum. I'll help carry her. Vincent said. No, Charlotte said stubbornly. You've helped enough. Gran whistled. Wow, Tracy. And you call me the overdramatic one. I think you need to calm down. Mom didn't hear her. She was so lost in hearts. No one could get through to her. Trent continued snarling and slamming his body into the door over and over. He's going to hurt himself. I muttered. Trent. Looks just like Remington. So much like Remington. Mom repeated the name Dad's dog repeatedly until it was barely a whisper. Bennett spoke softly as if talking to a nibble child. What did that dog look like? She turned her head to him ever so slowly. Just like Trent. Just like your black-coated dog. You mean my son? To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading crescent enthusiasm. Mom grimaced. They all look the same. She shrieked. Bennett kept perfectly calm. Was this dog freakishly large? Was it aggressive? Did it prefer a certain diet? Yes to the first, and I've never seen him eat. Nicholas always feeded himself, but he never spent anything for it at the pet store. I know because we always do the bills together. He never charged anything cash or credit for that dog. I asked my husband one time where he takes the dog to feed it. He said he would feed it our leftovers and laugh, saying it was a joke. I asked further. My husband was intent on keeping it, and it never interacted or harmed me or my kids. Thinking back, I remember my dad sometimes taking it on long walks and he would come back with muddy shoes as if they had been running in the woods. Mom was always at work at the time, so she never knew that fact. By any chance, could that dog have been a werewolf? Bennett said sharply. Mom snorted. I'm pretty sure I would have noticed if a dog turned into a person in my own house. Oh really? Then how come you never noticed Trent being one either? Grant snorted. Mom shot a dagged look at her. Easy there. We don't want any more arguing. I'm already suffering from a dreadful migraine. Bennett shrugged his temples. You think you're the only one. Mom crossed her arms. I can't believe all this fictitious stuff is happening. I can't trust anything in this world anymore. Please tell me vampires aren't real too. Bennett paused for a second. That's a whole other story. I'm not even sure of myself. If you tell me Dracula is real, I'm going to hop on a plane and go searching for him right now. Gran exclaimed hopefully. What happened to leaving your house kicking and screaming? Mom scrutinized. Grant snorted. I'm not leaving my house. I'll take a vacation. Find the hunky bat and keep him here. She turned to Bennett. If any case I can't hold him, can I borrow one of your little rooms there? She pointed at Trent's confinement. Bennett clasped his forehead and shook his head. What type of family did my son mate into? Will my son ever turn back to normal? By normal, do you mean human? Yes, he will turn back into his human form. However, now that he has adapted into his werewolf form, he will stay a werewolf. But it is up to him to choose to join into my pack or become a rogue. I advise you to convince him to join my pack, not only for your daughter's sake but for his own. In my world, once a wolf becomes rogue, he will be treated like a criminal all his life. So you want my son to join your gang? Mom didn't look happy about it. Your son will join my pack if he wishes. Though I doubt he would reject my offer, considering both your daughters are already part of my pack. Hush. Arlit shook her head. I didn't agree to any membership. No one even asked me anything. Mum, I swear, I didn't agree to anything. I forgot no one clearly explained to Charlotte about the whole mating shebang, but neither did I understand the werewolf community rules and regulations. Bennett pointed at Vincent, who looked like he would rather be in a different room. Vincent is your mate. Therefore you two are meant to be together, and Celeste is my son's mate. Charlotte blushed. The same time Vincent faked a cough to hide his embarrassment. Hold on. My daughters can't be forced to these boys just because you say so. You can't play Cupid with my children. Mom seethed. I nothing to do with this arrangement. It is by fate that your children are intertwined with these boys. Something in your past is the key to why this all happened, and that is what we need to figure out. Mom hissed. We now. How else am I going to find out without your cooperation? Long. I think it's for our best interest that you tell him as much as you know about Dad and Remington. How is it in our best interest? I don't understand all this, she cried. Coming up to her, I grasped both her hands and placed them above my heart. Mom, do you remember that time when I was a kid? We talked about the time you first realized you liked Dad. She smiled. I remember. You were 14 years old and you told me you had a crush on that snobby kid down the street. Thank God, that infatuation didn't last long. I rolled my eyes and smiled at her. You told me that when you realized you liked Dad, you noticed your heart would thump harder than usual. And at the same time, he would also do things that would slow it down. Her eyes softened as she looked at me carefully. What are you saying, Celeste? I grinned and my cheeks flamed for what I was about to say. I didn't realize it until recently, when Greyson saved my life. When I'm with him, my heart would thump so hard my stomach would flutter and my throat would tighten. I forget how to breathe. Then yesterday and today, seeing him hurt and having no power to do anything but watch, my heart feels like it's dying. And think these feelings I have for Greyson might become something like what you and Dad had. I feel those things when I get heartburn. Gran mumbled. You are a mood killer. Bennett whispered next to her. And you need anger management. She spat and Bennett responded with a snarl. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Or no kibble for you, she added. Mom tilted her head to the side and took her hands back, then gave me a good warm hug. Something I've missed for far too long. You're basically telling me you have feelings for a dog, she said with fake humor. I chuckled. Call it puppy love. That's seriously not funny, Celeste. Sorry, I thought it might lighten the mood. Mom sighed. This whole thing will take a while getting used to. Believe me, I know. It took a while for me to get used to all this. I pulled away and looked her in the eyes. Are you going to be all right? Do you think you can accept all this? She took a long, hard breath. Not right away, but you can't expect me to adjust to it quickly. I mean, It isn't every day mums find out their kid is bonded to a dog, werewolf. We are intelligent beings that are far more superior to humans. Bennett corrected. Aren't you all high and mighty? Gran crossed her hands and glared up at him. Bennett sighed and scratched the back of his head. When our kids complete the bond, I hope this woman stays at her own house. Next to me, my mom's shoulders sag. He chooses this moment to tell my mom about the bond. Bond? What does that mean? Oh, please. Don't explain it now. They will have a formal ceremony and then they will mate. He explains it in a nonchalant manner. It sounded like he was describing the weather. To my agent extraordinaire, Lycan Love, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. In simple terms of what you mean, I could practically hear Mom ticking. She was going to explode again. Don't you think it's a little too early for that? Bennett shakes his head. She obviously has feeling for my son. Celeste developed those feelings on her own, and with their mate bond, it will strengthen. They will marry within the year, and when Greyson turns 25, they have within a year to complete the tradition. And how is this tradition completed exactly? Deep within my gut, I knew what was going to come out of his mouth was not good. I held my breath until he said, "She gives birth to a son." Then I screamed so loud, even Trent on the other side of that door shut up. Don't let the story end. Subscribe to continue our Wolfpack legend.